Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. We are continuing the Gemara, the discussion of Tefillin, which will transition into some other discussions about um, being undressed and praying during being undressed and praying while being undressed next to someone else. There's all of these other important topics that might be relevant, but this is what Masechet Berachot is. It's about all of the laws of tefillah, of when we can say it's different tefillot. So we're going to pick up from where we left off. Just to give you a quick reminder, we were discussing the laws of tefillin, about where you could take a tefillin, taking a tefillin into the bathroom, wearing a tefillin when someone has to go to the bathroom, passing gas. And we spoke about what happens if we were speaking about different tefillin related things, and we also mentioned that one should not be praying tefillah while they're holding on to things, including their tefillin. But that also, we went into the topic of you shouldn't be holding other things during prayer other than a sidur, unless it's helping you focus. Again, getting rid of the distractions before tefillah and focusing on tefillin. Tonight we're going to start off with the following question. Anyone here have a talit bag? Okay, all hands are going up. That's what I had expected. Anyone here have another tefillin bag that goes within your talit bag? Okay, so does anyone put the talit and tefillin in one single bag? No. What is that for? So you have a third bag that is holding your talit bag and your tefillin bag within it. Okay, very good. So you have a third one. Okay. Now the question is, why don't we just have everything in one compartment? Why don't we just have everything in one bag? Okay. So you're talking about a practical issue that in ma'avirin ala mitzvot. If you stick your hand in the bag and you draw one mitzvah out, then you shouldn't say, I changed my mind and put it back in. So if you put your hand in, whatever comes out, if you put out your tefillin, you should wear your tefillin, right? So that's a good way to do it, is keep your tefillin in one bag, your talit in another bag. Reach for the talit first. Ma'alin bakodesh, you wear your talit, then you put on your tefillin. That's a good practical reason. But let's say I could look, right? And let's say I'm going to be careful with what I pick. Is there any issue with putting everything in the same bag? Let me ask another question. Anyone here leave any tzedakah money inside their tefillin bag? You do. Okay, so what do you do when it comes time? You have a stack of singles. Okay, so where do you put it exactly?
My talit and tefillin, the talit's not in a separate bag, or
Okay.
talit bag and the tefillin's in its own bag.
Okay, so you have a tefillin pouch, and then you have that goes within a talit bag that's with your talit. And where's the cash?
Under the talit.
Under the talit. Okay, and where exactly is this? If you don't mind me, can I have your home code? I'm kidding. I don't need to know more. That's it. I was just joking. $20. Okay, I'll take it. Okay, so okay. So anyone else keep money in their tefillin bag? You just do the same thing. Okay, fine. Okay. Question: does anyone put the money in the tefillin bag itself, the tefillin pouch? Does anyone put anything other tefillin in the tefillin pouch? Nothing else is in there. Okay, that brings us into a
Rabbi, I do. Rabbi, I always put tzedakah money in there so I can put on the.
Okay, so Mr. Zorobelli, where do you put your tzedakah money exactly?
Exactly next to the tefillin, in the tefillin bag.
In the tefillin pouch, you put your money.
Yeah, is not good?
Okay, so I will say that for tonight you came to the right place, because we're gonna talk about it. Okay.
Good.
We're gonna talk about it.
Stuff in the room. I don't both have to find it. I hide everything in the tefillin.
Oh, there you go. Andy says that whenever he's in a hotel, instead of putting things in the safe, he just puts it in his tefillin bag. Why not put it in the safe and lock it up?
That looks nice.
No, they don't. Okay, I get it. Like you have your Apple Watch or whatever. You don't want people to see. Put the Rolex right inside the tefillin, and then it's safe. Okay. Some hotels don't have a safe, right? And also some safes aren't really safe, even Shalom Eda. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go. Let's see our Gemara tonight. We have a tremendous zechut because we get to learn something and put it into practice. Here we go. We're going to pick up from the Gemara, Masechet Berachot, Daf Kav Gimel Amud Bet 23b on the screen. Tani Chada, if you're looking inside the art scroll, it's 23b3 on the right column. Tani Chada. Okay, here we go. Tani Chada, one baraita tells us the following: Tzorer Adam tefilav im ma'otav be'afraksuto. A person can bundle his tefillin together with his money inside of a handkerchief. Afraksuto is like some sort of a pouch. Okay? So we have one baraita that says you could put the money inside the same pouch, the same covering as your tefillin. V'tanya idach, we learn in another baraita, lo yatzor. The second baraita says you should not do that. You should not put money in the pouch of the tefillin. So here we have two statements. One statement says it's okay to put money inside the pouch of the tefillin. The second one is it's not okay to put money inside the pouch of tefillin. Now, I just want to clarify. For our Gemara here, we're not talking about tzedakah money, like what we're talking about with the examples that you gave. We're talking more a situation like what Andy is talking about, of you're carrying your bag and you want to just, you don't want to take two separate bags, or you don't have a separate wallet, so you just put that in there for safety, okay? So you have these two things. In one case, it says it's okay to put your money in there, and another one it says it's not. So how do you reconcile? Lo kashya, had azmeneh, had lo azmeneh. The answer is it depends. It depends on if you designated the pouch for your tefillin or not. Because Rav Chasta said, "Hi sudarad tefillin." The handkerchief that you place the tefillin in, I'm calling it a pouch because they used to fold it in a handkerchief, but it's the same concept. Hi sudarat tefillin de'azmeneh lemitzar be'tefillin. If you have a pouch that you've designated and you said the purpose of this is to put your tefillin in, tsar be'tefillin. Once you actually put tefillin in there, asur lemitzar be'pshiteh. You may not put money in there anymore. Why? It's become kadosh. It's become sanctified for the purpose of the tefillin. Azmeneh velo tsarbe. Rav Chasta says, if you designated it for tefillin, but you never put tefillin in yet, which means you bought a tefillin bag, but you didn't start using it yet, or tsarbe velo azmeneh, or if you actually put tefillin in something, but you didn't designate it for your tefillin. Let's say, for example, you had a plastic bag. You had an Everfresh plastic bag, and for whatever reason, you put your tefillin in there. So yeah, you put your tefillin in, but this wasn't designated for the purpose of tefillin. It just happens to be, this is what I had in the moment. Shari lemitzar be'zuzeh. So Rav Chista says, one would be allowed to put money in there. Rav Chista tells us the following. If you do both of the following, if you take up a bag and you designate it for the purpose of tefillin, and you actually put tefillin in there, that's it. This cannot be used for anything else. It became kadosh. It became a Tashmish of Kedusha, as what it's called. Its purpose is for Kedusha. You should not put money in there. You should not hide things in there. But why? Because this has a Kedusha purpose to it. Okay? However, this is only talking about tefillin. I'll get to that in a second. But then there's another opinion, Abaye, that Abaye is a little bit more strict. He says that hazmana, designation, is significant enough that once you Rav Chista says you have to designate it and actually put the tefillin in there. Which means if you bought a tefillin bag, but you haven't used it yet, you could put other stuff in there, according to Rav Chista. Abaye says no. Once you designate something for the purpose of tefillin, that's it. Azmeneh afal gav de'lo tzarbe. If you designate it for the purpose of tefillin, even if you didn't put any tefillin in there, it's now designated, and it cannot be. You may not put anything else in there. Sarbe. If you put your tefillin in there, it doesn't matter. Iyazmeneh asir. If you designated it, then it's asur to place it. It's prohibited to put anything else in it. Ilo azmeneh. If you had not designated it, lo, it's not a problem. Okay, so here we go. We have a two different opinions, Rav Chista and Abaye. The question is, are you allowed to put something in a tefillin bag? I'm not talking about your teli bag. I'm not talking about your bag that everything goes into. I'm talking about the actual pouch that tefillin goes into. Are you allowed to put other things in there? The answer is a machloket, but the answer is no, you're not allowed to. Just the only difference is that according to Rav Chista, He's a little bit more lenient in the sense that if you designated it and you put your tefillin in there, then you're not allowed to put anything else in. And according to Abaye, once you designate it for the purpose of tefillin, you're not allowed to put anything else in. Okay? Now this is...
You got to get in the bag, you take your old one and put mine in.
Oh, you're okay. Something that was designated and was used for the purpose of tefillin, can you now transfer? The answer is no. There's a concept in halacha that says as following. Well, you know what I was about to say? What? Very good. You got it right. Tashmisheh Kedusha Nignazin, Tashmisheh Mitzvah Nizrakin. This is a Gemara Masechet Megillah that says that if you had something that was used for a mitzvah, when you're done with the mitzvah, you can throw it out. Very simple example, lulav. You have a lulav. After you use the lulav for 7 days and it's done, what can you do with it? The answer is you can throw it out. Just throw it into the garbage. You could use it for whatever you want. You could use it to fuel your fire to burn your chametz. You could use it to point to the Torah if you want. That's it. It doesn't have any inherent kedusha. It was used for the purpose of the mitzvah, and then once you're done with the mitzvah, you can do whatever you want with it. However, Tashmisheh Kedusha, if there is something that has the words of Torah on it, words of the Torah, or something that's even used to support or to protect the words of the Torah, it has Kedusha level, and once someone is done using it, Nignazin, cannot be thrown out, it has to be buried. So, what happens if a person has a Sefer Torah, and the Sefer Torah gets worn out? What do they do with the Sefer Torah? Can you throw that out? No. Lulav, you could throw out. Sefer Torah, you may not. Now, not only are you not allowed to throw out the Sefer Torah, you have to bury it, but even the Tashmish of the Sefer Torah, which means the case of the Sefer Torah. Let's say the case is all rusted and it's ruined, or like the Ashkenazim, for example, we the Sephardim, we have like a big heavy metal case. They use a cloth. Let's say the cloth is torn. They're like, okay, that's it. We don't want this anymore. What do they do with that? Throw it out. The answer is absolutely not. Why? Because it's a Tashmish of Kedusha. Say after me. Tashmisheh Kedusha Nignazin Tashmisheh Mitzvah Nizrakin. You could just throw it out. What happens? I blow a shofar. Afterwards, I don't like it anymore. There's a crack in the shofar. I have to get rid of this. What do I have to do with it? You can throw it out. Now, all the commentators explain that, listen, don't stick it inside of your chicken soup and you throw it inside the garbage and make it disgusting. The thing did a mitzvah for you, so do it in a respectable way. For example, put it inside of a plastic bag and throw it out. Why? Can you just throw it out? Tashmisheh mitzvah. Tricky question. What about tzitzit? My talit is ripped. I don't want it anymore. Talit katan, tzitzit katan is ripped. What do I do with it? What?
See that we barely can, it says sometimes has it brought on and back.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Okay, so Andy basically said that the tzitzit in and of itself you can throw out. It is very common when a tzitzit string like rips off or something. What do you do with it? The answer is you can put it in the geniza box, but the issue is that when you put something in the geniza box, understand that costs money. It has to go get buried. If it's one thing once, it's not a big deal. But you know what the issue is now? Baruch Hashem, we never had this issue we had this issue. Every Shabbat, there's a printing press. They go and they print 6 million pages of every single, anyone wrote anything, they wrote it, and they like to put Hashem's name in there, and then they come and they dump it at every single synagogue. All of a sudden you come into Bet Knesset, who dropped this off? We don't know. Some guy with a mask. He just came in and he just put this in. And so you end up with so many papers. What's going to happen with all these papers? These things have to be buried somewhere, and if they have the name of Hashem on it, because the name of Hashem is Kedusha. So you're absolutely right. So that's why, if something doesn't need to be buried, we really shouldn't bury it. Okay? So, what is tefillin? Is it a mitzvah or is it kedusha? Why is mitzvah? Why is it a kedusha? Why is tefillin kedusha? It has the words of Torah and it has the Shema Hashem in there. And because of that, the straps of tefillin even though the straps don't necessarily have the names of Hashem, although we learned in Rashi that really the straps, there's a letter Yud here, and there's a letter Dalet here, and there's a Shin over there. So it even has the letters on it. But what about the tefillin pouch?
Yes.
Let's say there's nothing written on it. The tefillin pouch isn't written on it. What is that? What category does it fall in? The box, the pouch that it's in, both. That's called a Tashmish Kedushah. Yeah, okay, very good. So you're saying once you say the box is a Tashmish, really the bag isn't. So perhaps we're talking about here that it actually sits in without a case. It's possible, that's what we're talking about here. Or it's also possible that the straps, like I had mentioned, that Rashi already told us in the last daf, that the straps, in a sense, have the letters of they're inscribed there. So the pouch, the straps are sitting in the pouch. So what ends up happening is, at least you're actually raising a very good point, that perhaps the case is the tashmish, and the bag is just the tashmish of the tashmish, which could be a valid point. But the way we view it is, this is a tashmish, which means it's serving the purpose of the kedusha. So the bag of a tefillin has a kedusha to it, and therefore you should not put anything in there, unless it's for the purpose of the tefillin. If there's something that is supporting the tefillin, yeah, even that, it's better not to. Or a question I've dealt with is if someone has a tefillin bag and they want to put an air tag in there so they don't lose it, right? Very practical. You put an air tag in your tefillin bag so you don't lose it. Because so, what is that air tag? Are you using the pouch? You're not really using the pouch. Am I using the pouch to protect my air tag? No, I'm using my air tag to protect my tefillin. So perhaps there are situations like this where it could be allowed. But everyone who spoke about, so Mr. Zerubbabel, you had mentioned that you put your tzedakah money. It's better not to put your tzedakah money in the tefillin bag itself.
Okay, I'm gonna remove it tomorrow.
There you go. There you go. So why? But understand the reason why is because the tefillin has Kedushah, because it has the name of Hashem in it. So the bag that it's in is considered a kadosh.
How about the mirror? The mirror that I used to walk. Even that I cannot put in there?
I think your mirror is also going to get demoted, and
Okay.
Yeah, together with the tzedakah, it's better not to put anything else in there. Again, there are times where it's okay, especially if it's for the kedusha. Like I said, you're doing something to protect the tefillin.
Those days, I don't think they have boxes.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Other stuff, bags would be okay.
So you're correct. You could very well say that the tefillin, the fact that we have a box, that's the tashmish. That's the tashmish, and that's the protection. Although what I'm saying is that there's also the straps, which itself could be considered kedusha. Maybe not. Practically speaking, it's better to avoid it and not to put anything in that tefillin pouch. Even though you might have some technical, there are situations where if you want to be lenient, there you go. You can argue that this is not. However, this is designated for the purpose of tefillin, and it's really, therefore it's better not to. Because we saw, even in one opinion, says that if it's designated for this purpose. I've also seen, anyone here wear Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam? No? Okay, we're not going to get up to that. Otherwise, we'd have to go place a mass order of like a bunch of Rabbeinu Tam. You guys know what I'm talking about, though? There's some people that they wear two types of tefillin. Why? Because in the tefillin boxes, there's 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 parchments. Everyone agrees on the same 4 parchments. It's Kadesh Li, V'hayaki V'yacha, Shema, and V'ahavta. You have these 4 paragraphs in 4 compartments. Everyone agrees. The question is, what order should it be in? One opinion says it should be 1, 2, 3, 4. The other one says 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit out of order. And these 2 main opinions is Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam. There's of course many opinions according to both of them. Now, according to each one, here is the nuance. According to each one, the other one isn't kosher tefillin, right? If you have Rashi tefillin, then your other tefillin, if your Rashi tefillin is correct, then your Rabbeinu Tam tefillin really isn't correct. And if your Rabbeinu Tam tefillin is correct, then your Rashi isn't correct. That's why we don't put them all in the same pouch. Besides for the fact that you don't want to confuse them, you're going to pull out the wrong one, and it's easier to keep them separate. But this is one of the reasons why they say is that technically speaking, if this is my tefillin pouch for this tefillin, then I shouldn't be putting that in the same pouch because that's not the real thing, and also vice versa. Now, of course, we treat it both with the kedusha, and there's a value in doing it, but we always keep them in people who do it keep them in separate bags for this purpose. Again, also practical purpose of not to mix them up. So, with all of that said, here's what we're learning. Key point: you have a pouch for tefillin, designated for tefillin. You shouldn't put anything else in there. Similarly, with a Sefer Torah scroll. Imagine someone opens up the Sefer Torah and they hide their Shira candy. Where's I have a gabbai here. Itai, you here? Itai.
Woo!
Yeah, there you go. Would you ever hide your candy in the Sefer Torah?
Never.
Never.
Some kind of stuff they use their Aron as some kind of storage, which is not the best.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they store things in the Aron. Look, if it's something to protect, if it's something important, if it's books, if it's rimonim, which is for the purpose of the Torah, if it's the scarves that you're using to adorn the Torah, okay. If it's your patething, should you really be putting it in the Sefer Torah? Or if it's your personal tefillin, there's some people that they put their personal talit like inside there. Why are you putting your personal talit inside the Aron? There's shelves, there's things you can put. If you put your drinks inside there, it's not the place to put it inside the Aron of the Sefer Torah. The Aron of the Sefer Torah is for Kedusha, and it shouldn't be used for other purposes. That's exactly what we're saying now. Okay? Very good. Let's continue.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
What if you use a tefillin bag for something else of Kedusha? Like, let's say you have a Ketoret scroll. Can you put that with a tefillin if it's designated for tefillin?
Okay, excellent question. And one very good question. Another very good question that comes up a lot, which you might see. Sometimes you have like a makeshift minyan. Like, I don't know, you guys go somewhere and there's like a minyan somewhere, and there's a Brit Milah and you have a random minyan somewhere, and it comes time to starting collecting tzedakah. What do you do if you don't have your tzedakah box? Very often someone will just pass around their talit bag or the tefillin bag. So now we're learning, really it's better not to do the talit bag. You shouldn't be using that to collect. Look, you're not really storing it, you're just using it to collect, and then afterwards you're going to pull it out. It's probably okay. The same thing as what you're saying, if you're using something for Kedusha, to your point, Itai, then it would be permitted in the sense that it's something that's for Kedusha. Like you're talking about, you have another scroll. The same way how in your Aron HaKodesh, you could put a Sefer Torah and you could put other Sfarim Kedoshim, then you would be allowed to, but it's probably better. The truth of the matter is, you might find leniencies in some of these cases. I don't have an exact answer for your question. From what I've seen, your tefillin pouch should be used exclusively for tefillin. Should not be mixed with anything else. But it's a good question. There probably is some room for leniency. Yeah. No. Giving money, because when we're talking about Kedusha, what makes something kadosh? Specifically, the words of Torah, right? Whether it's even your shofar, you shouldn't put, if you have a shofar that could fit in your tefillin bag, you shouldn't put it in your tefillin bag. You put it in the talit bag, yes. But not, because why? Because it's not a Tashmish of Kedushah, it's a Tashmish mitzvah, if that makes sense. Yeah?
If your tefillin bag went through its useful life and you buy a new one, so that one has to be put in the Genisa?
Yeah, that's what Josh is asking. Josh is saying, can you repurpose a tefillin, a bag that was used for tefillin after the fact? And the answer is better, definitely better not to. Look, if you could donate it to the Bet Knesset for them to put their tefillin in there for sure. The other thing is like, look, if I'm talking about something that it's not such a big deal. If all of a sudden you have a tefillin bag that is like bedazzled with diamonds and like gold and stuff like that, then ask your rabbi before you bury it. Okay, go and like there's leniencies here. There's definitely leniencies. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, many tefillin bags have two layers. You know what I'm talking about? And you don't even bring it to tefillin bag. There's probably like a pouch within a pouch. It's like a pocket within the pouch. You know what I'm talking about? There's like a lining. That's what it's called. There's a lining. So then, technically speaking, that first lining is like the first That's really, it's like a multiple layers of covers. So you have your tefillin within a case, within a lining that's within a larger lining. So there are times where things will be permitted. We're talking about in general here. I'm not getting into all of the halachot. We're talking about in general. Tefillin bag that's designated for tefillin should be used only for tefillin, nothing else. There are exceptions if necessary, but we could deal with those as they come. Yes.
If I follow that answer, if I have some papers printed with Hashem's name on it and I decide to put it in the binder or something, does that become Tashmish Kedushah?
Very good question. Okay, excellent question. It opens up the whole question of Genizah. No, I don't think so. If you put papers with the name of Hashem inside of a folder, does that become a Tashmish of Kedusha? I don't think so. I think we're talking about the Devarim Shebek Kedusha, like a Sefer Torah or Tefillin or mezuzah. Mezuzah is a very important case. You know, you have mezuzah that's placed in the case, but there's usually put a wrapping. Rarely, unless you I don't know, rarely do you put the mezuzah scroll directly in your mezuzah case. But if you do, that mezuzah case has now become a tashmish of kedusha. Usually, it's put in some sort of like a wrap, and then that's put in the case, which gives you a little bit more wiggle room. But if you have a mezuzah, but that wrap is a tashmish of kedusha. It should not be thrown out. Your parchment paper or your plastic saran wrap, whatever it is, you throw them out. Right. Why do you throw it out? Because you feel like it's garbage. But it served a purpose of protecting Kedushah. Tashmish of Kedushah. It should be treated with respect. Yes.
Abstract. You repair with like hot would have to be wearing a kippah or
Yeah. Okay. No. So it's a very good question. There's the paint that you have to do. You have to sew it. You have to glue it. I'm not a sofer, and I'm not even going to pretend to be a sofer. We're not here talking about the process of repairing tefillin. There is certain kavanot you have to have. There's certain words you have to say. If you're painting your tefillin, you have to say L'Shem Kedushat tefillin. If you're tying
plastic.
The plastic.
The Tashmisheh Kedusha.
No, that's fine. You could. Okay, that's fine. So you're saying that the plastic case.
Yeah.
Oh, the plastic case. I had a spasm on the phone. That like came off. You want to like glue it back together. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Random items in an Aron. Why would an Aron be considered Tashmisheh Kedusha? It's holding the plastic, the metal Torah covers. Those are Tashmisheh.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent question. You guys you're asking the right question. That really maybe an Aron is not a Tashmish of Kedusha in the sense that it's a Tashmish of a Tashmish. The Gemara asks this question. Gemara Masechet Megillah asks this question about the bima that you put the Sefer Torah on. And it says that if you have a tablecloth, that is considered Tashmish of Kedusha, and also the bima. And the Gemara says, hold on a second. It's been a while since I looked at it, but it says, hold on a second. If the cloth is a tashmish, then the table that the cloth is on a tashmish. It's a tashmish of a tashmish. It's something that's serving the purpose of serving the purpose. It's a covering of it's second degree. And the Gemara says, you're right, but sometimes they put it directly on the table, right? And so to the extent that sometimes you put it directly there, then it would be an issue. Maybe our Arons, you never directly put a Sefer Torah scroll in there. Maybe you do. Let's say they have to take the scroll for repair, the case. So let's say they have to take the case for repair. It happens. Sometimes we have a case that there's like a metal shard that came out that was ripping all of our hands. I was one of the casualties of war. It happened in our minyan. So what do they do? Itai, do you know?
I got cut many times.
You got cut many times.
They tried fixing it. I don't know.
So if you want to have this repaired and you're going to if you can repair it there on the spot, you repair it there on the spot. If someone's going to have to go and like shave something down, sand something down, they're not going to take the whole Torah. You're going to take the scroll out, leave it there somewhere safe, take the case, take care of it, bring it back. So
I think they took the whole thing.
They took the whole thing?
Yeah.
All right, fine. There you go. Maybe it's for this reason. Maybe it's because they wanted to leave the drinks inside the heichal. I don't know exactly. No, but you're bringing up good points that you're explaining why technically you might be allowed to put something else in your tefillin bag, or technically you might be allowed to put other things inside the Aron. But this is more of a general. When we're learning the halacha, it really should be designated for this purpose. And even if you might technically be allowed to, you really shouldn't. Yes, Rama.
Esther, that doesn't mention we know that in Megillah Esther there is no mention of Hashem,
and has holes in it that
Yeah.
that it's 100 years old.
Yeah.
And okay, you can still use it, I think, but can you just discard of it? Because it's old and it's pasul.
Okay, excellent question. You're asking about Megillat Esther. Megillat Esther doesn't have Shem Hashem in it. So the answer is Machloket. There's two opinions as to whether the Megillah has Kedusha, whether it's Mitamet Yadayim. There's a Machloket. But the way we hold is that yes, it has Kedusha, and yes, it would have to be put in Geniza. It would have to be buried. I mean, but it's a Machloket. It's Machloket. Okay, good. Let's keep going. We covered a few lines. Let's go.
Rabbi,
Oh, yes.
we gotta make sure the car guys don't hear this shirt. We might have a lot of money missing out of our bags in the next few weeks.
Yeah. He's just saying, Joey might have some people that are checking out his tefillin later. Just make sure no one's looking at your tefillin. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's continue. Ba'amine Rav Yosef, Breder Rav Nechoniah, Rav Yehuda. All right. Now we're going to talk about, let's say you're somewhere and you're going on a road trip, you're camping, and you want to go to sleep and you want to keep your tefillin safe. Where can you place your tefillin when you're going to sleep to keep it safe? Okay, if you have somewhere safe to put it somewhere safe. But let's say you don't. This is the question. Can you put the tefillin under your head? Right? If you're going to sleep and you want to keep your tefillin safe, where's a safe place to put it to make sure it doesn't get stolen or taken away? Just put it under your head. Why put it under your head? Exactly. In order to get to it, they're going to have to wake you up. So you're protecting it with your body. Are you allowed to sleep on your tefillin? You get it? Obviously, this is not talking about, hey, tonight you're going to go home and say, hey, my pillow is too soft. Instead of doing a Tempur-Pedic, I'll take my tefillin Rashi and put it under my head. We're talking about to protect the tefillin, right? So that's an important perspective. This is to protect the tefillin. Am I allowed to put it under my head? So the Gemara says, Tachat margilotav lo kami vayali. I'm not asking about putting it under my feet. Because putting it under my feet is disrespectful. Shenoheg bahen minhag bizayon. Because that's disgracing the tefillin. Hikami bayali, my question is, Tachat merashotav mai. Am I allowed to put the tefillin under my head to protect it? Amar le hachi amar Shmuel. The answer that Rav Yehuda gave to Rav Yosef is the following. Hachi amar Shmuel. Shmuel answered this question. Mutar, you're allowed to. Afilu ishto imo. And even if you're next to your wife. Now, why is that such a big deal to say even if your wife is with you? Very good. What'd you say? Yeah, because it's not only is it sleeping there, but it might turn into having relations there. And Shmuel said that you're allowed to. You're allowed to sleep with your head on the tefillin, even if the wife is present, which means even if they end up having relations. Okay? The way you could see, there's a footnote that says there's this concept of kis b'toch kis, having double layer covering. And if a person's going to have relations in front of their tefillin, there has to be double layer covering. And I had mentioned the way that they construct these tefillin pouches is really, it's like a double layer covering. Besides for the fact that you have the case, besides for the fact that you put that inside your talit bag, and then many people put that inside another bag. So you have all of those coverings nowadays. This is very relevant for, let's say, for example, if someone, should you put your tefillin in your bedroom? So we're going to get up to the topic later on of having relations in front of your tefillin. The answer is as long as there's a double covering, it's fine. But again, it's just treating it with respect. Person should treat the tefillin with respect. And if a person is going to a hotel room and there's a bed there, instead of having the tefillin right next to them, put it inside of a drawer or put it inside over there on the side or put it inside the suitcase or something to give it a little bit more respect, to have multiple coverings. Technically, as long as you have a double covering, it's fine. It's fine to have even to have relations in front of it. But again, treating it with respect. Tonight's shiur, I think, more than getting the halacha, is trying to get us more to understand the sensitivity to the respect of the tefillin. Okay, so technically, you might be allowed to do a lot of these things. Here's the case that Shmuel answered: that if you need to protect your tefillin, you're allowed to put it under your pillow, under your head, even if your wife is with you. Okay? Meitve, but I have a contradiction. Shmuel is an Amorah. I'm going to bring you a baraita that says something else, and that will refute Shmuel, because Shmuel is from the generation of Amoraim. Let's see what the baraita says. Lo yaniach adam tefilav tachad margelotav. A person should never put his tefillin under his legs, because it's disgrace, it's extremely disrespectful. Aval manichan tachad merashotav. However, one is allowed to put it under their head. So far, so good. However, but if his wife were there, asur, then it's not allowed. Which means you're only allowed to do it if you're alone. But if a man is with his wife, he's not allowed to put it under his head. And if there is some sort of a ledge that is 3 tefachim higher from the bed, or it's 3 tefachim lower than the bed, mutar, then one is allowed to put it over there. So for example, if there's some sort of a, what do you call it, a bedside table? Nightstand, a nightstand. So if you have a nightstand that's 3 tefachim lower, then that's okay, even if he's with his wife. Or if he has some sort of a nightstand that's 3 tefachim higher, then it's considered separate enough that it's like not joining you guys in the bed, so it's okay if it goes there and over there. But 3 tefachim is 24 centimeters. That much. Yeah, it's a bedside table. Yeah, it's about 3. How much is 24 centimeters? It's not that much. Yeah, it's about a foot. If your bed is 2 feet high, this is 1 feet down. There you go. So anyway, so this is a contradiction for Shmuel. Because Rav Yehuda asked this question, or sorry, who asked this question? It was Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef asked the question is, am I allowed to put a tefillin under my head? Shmuel said, yeah, even if your wife is there. The baraita says you're allowed to, but not if your wife is there. So now you have an issue, because Shmuel, you have a baraita that goes against you. So the Gemara says, yeah, question? Then that's not considered wife is with you. Yeah, if it's separate beds, that's not considered wife is with you. Wife is with you means it could lead into relations. Yeah, exactly. So the Gemara says, tiyufta de Shmuel, tiyufta, that is rejecting Shmuel. Shmuel is not correct. Shmuel has been refuted because you have a baraita that says if the one's wife is with him, he may not put the tefillin under his pillow. Now we have Rava. Amar Rava. Rava is going to say a bold statement. Are you ready? Rava says, Afagav de Tanya tiyufta de Shmuel, even though we just refuted Shmuel and brought a proof that if one is with his wife, he may not put it under his head, Hilchata kavateh, the halacha follows him anyway. Even though we have a proof against him, halacha is going to follow him anyway. Why? My tama. What's the reason? If you have a proof against him, why would the halacha be like him? The answer is as following. Kol lenatorinu tfe adif. The answer is because when it comes to protecting it, we have already learned that we have changed the halacha. What happened? Remember, initially they said, don't take your tefillin into the bathroom when you have to do number 2. Leave it outside. Then what happened? Started getting stolen. And there was someone, a woman, a prostitute, stole it and framed the guy, and the guy ended up killing himself. Then they said, okay, bring it on the inside. Then what ended up happening? You had rodents that were destroying it. So then what did they end up saying? They said, take it with you into the bathroom, hold on to it. You're allowed to hold on to it. So you see that there's a precedent of you have to treat tefillin with respect, but if what you're doing is to respect the tefillin, then it's permitted. So that's why Shmuel says, I know the halacha is you're not allowed to have relations with your wife in front of the tefillin. Of course I know that. Of course I know that you shouldn't put it over there when you're about to have relations. I'm not telling you to have relations with your wife and your tefillin is your third wheel. I'm not telling you to do that. What I'm saying is a situation where you have to protect your tefillin. In a situation like that, you're allowed to sleep on it, even if your wife is there. Why? Because it's to protect the tefillin. And that's why the baraita is not talking about to protect it. I'm talking about to protect it. That's essentially what's saying. Now, where exactly do you place it? I don't know. What do you guys envision? Let's say you put your tefillin under your head. What does that mean? In the pillowcase? Under the pillow. So you would go like under and just like sleep on top of the bulge. Oh, you're saying like go, like go under the sheets, under the sheet protector, go all the way into the mat. You mean cut the mattress open, stick it in there, Okay, that's smart thinking. Okay, now I know where you hide your stuff. I got everyone's secrets tonight. Okay, what'd you say? Okay. Cody's saying that he doesn't hog the entire pillow. So you just sleep on one side of the pillow, stick it on the other half under the other half of the pillow. Okay, that's a good idea. Probably more comfortable also. You don't have sleeping on a bulge. Let's see what the Gemara says. We're now on Kavdalat Amud Aleph 24A. Where should you place it exactly? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyahu. Rabbi Yirmiyah said, Ben kar la keset. It should be between the pillow and the sheets. So that means put it under the pillow. Shelo keneged rosho, not directly aligned with his head, but rather a bit to the side. This is Cody's answer. You put it under the pillow, on the side of the pillow that you're not using. Now, to John's point, you could even put it under the mat. You could even put it deeper in if you can, but you're not required to. All you have to do is put it under the pillow, and that's enough of a separation. Okay? You don't have to put it under the sheets. Benkar la kese, you just put it between the bed and the pillowcase. V'tanya Rabbi Chia manichan b'kova tachal merashotav. But Rabbi Chia told us, put it inside the pouch under his head. So the answer is not literally under his head. The pouch, we have like very small pouches nowadays, but it seems like they had a rather large pouch. And it's just saying you put it in the pouch under his head, but you don't put your head part of the tefillin. You're allowed to put your head on the other part of the pouch. Okay, so we're just like splitting hairs here. What he's telling you to do is put it under your head, but not directly under your head. You just put it under the pillow and put your head on the other part of the pillow. Enough so that if someone tries to steal it, you'll wake up, so you can protect it, but you're not actually sleeping on it. Now let's talk about what many rabbis would do when they went to sleep at night to protect their tefillin. What do you do when you put with your tefillin at night? This is a completely not even in the room. Okay, it seems. There you go. In a hotel room, you put it in a drawer. So this is what the rabbis of the Gemara would do. Bar kapara sayar lehu bekilta. Here's what he would do. He had a bed that had like a canopy. What's it called?
Poster bed.
Poster bed?
Poster bed.
It's a poster bed, and you have like a curtain around it. Okay, so Bar kapara had a curtain around it. What he would do with his tefillin is he would tie it to the drapes, to the curtain, umapik lemorshehon lebar, and then he would have the tefillin hanging outward. So basically, he would tie it, but he wouldn't have, like, it would have to be in the curtain, and he would like place it that is facing outward. So it's like tied to his bed curtains. It's safe, but it's not like directly seeing them. Okay. Rav Shisha, we're just going to keep it going. Rav Shisha bereid Rav Iti manach lehu ashar shifa upares sudara alabayu. What would Rav Shisha do? He would put it on the bench, and he put a cloth over it. That's next thing next to your bed. You have a bench, you have a chair, you're in a hotel room, you have a chair, you put it on the chair, and he would just cover it. Again, it's pretty clear, like what Josh said before. It doesn't sound like they had like tefillin bags and tefillin cases. They would put it there and just cover it, and that was enough. He just had a covering over it. He put it in the shifa, which was in the bag. He would put it on the bench, and then he would put a cloth over it. This one is great. Amar Rav Hamnuna bereid Rav Yosef. Rav Hamnuna says, Zimna chada v'kamina kamed Rava. One time, I was a student of Rava, and I was with him. Remember who Rava was? Rava said that we follow like Shmuel. Rava said that even though Shmuel was rejected, when Shmuel said you could put it under your head even if you're with your wife, Rava says even though he's rejected, we follow him. So Rava is of the opinion that you're allowed to put the tefillin under your head even if you're with your wife. That's the opinion of Rava. So now we have a student of Rava. His name is Rav Hamnuna, who was with him. And he got to see his bedroom. Okay? No, he didn't go under his bed. This wasn't that rabbi. But this is similar, where Rava had something going on in his bedroom, and he had a student helping him out with something, and the student got to see what happened in Rava's bedroom. Let's see. Zimna chada ava kamina kamed Rava. Once I was with Rava, v'amarli, and he said to me, Zil aiti li tefillin. He says, go get my tefillin. I forgot my tefillin. Go get it. Go get my tefillin. So I went to his bedroom to get his tefillin. V'ashkachtinu ben karla keset. I found it under his pillow, above the mattress. So it was there. Shelo keneged rosho, not on the place where he placed his head, which means, I don't know, maybe the pillow, like, it's like a memory foam. He saw this part is down. He knew exactly where the tefillin was. So he knew where it was placed. And the student says, and I happen to have known that the night before his wife went to the mikveh, which means it was mikveh night, which means they were together that night. And Rava knew that he knew. I don't know why he knew that it was mikveh night, and I don't know why Rava knew that his wife knew that it was mikveh night. I have no idea. I wasn't there. But what I do know is that the student is claiming that he knew it was mikveh night, and Rava knew that the student knew it was mikveh night, and he told him on purpose, go get my tefillin. Why? Because he wanted to make it clear. Do you remember when Rava said that the halacha is like Shmuel, that you're allowed to put the tefillin under your pillow even if your wife is with you? Rava himself did that. And he told his student, go look, I did it myself. I myself will do it. Why? It's not to flaunt the fact that he was with his wife. It's to show them that this is the halacha. And as Ilan already pointed out, there are other times where we will see in the Gemara where students would get very, very close and personal and observe their teachers in the bathroom or observe their teachers in the bedroom, and not to actually observe, but to learn. They had to learn. At the end of the day, students want to learn things from the teachers, and within a level of modesty, there's ways of doing it. So yes, for whatever reason, this student already knew his wife went to the mikveh. I don't know. You know what I'm thinking? Maybe their wives saw each other. I have another theory. Here's my theory. My theory is the wife had to go to the mikveh, so someone had to babysit the kids. And this Rav Hamuna said, I'm going to babysit your kids. Rav Hamuna was home while Rava was giving a shiur. The wife goes, he comes, so he knew. For whatever reason, he knew. And he happened to be the one that's helping him out. He was the babysitter, and maybe he was there. And then the next morning, Rava said, I need to go get my tefillin, but I'm going to tell him to go get the tefillin so that he sees, my star student that I trust so much, that he sees that I really believe that halacha is like this. Because Shmuel was refuted. The baraita says you're not allowed to do this. The baraita says you're not allowed to put the tefillin under your bed if you're with your wife. But Shmuel said you are, and Rava says halacha is like Shmuel. So Rava is saying, I believe it. I'm doing it myself. Okay, there you go. Let's keep going. Yes, we have a question by Mika's father. Go ahead.
Hey, Rabbi. So I want to know there's a halacha, right, that you can't sit on a couch that has like a holy book on it, right? I learned that from your class, or I'm
Not my
learning
class, probably somewhere else, because you're a Talmid Chacham. Yeah.
Kut Yosef then. Okay.
Okay.
So is that correct, or am I misspeaking?
Yeah, okay. So again, this goes back to the respect that you're giving to the tefillin. You are not allowed to sit on tefillin. You're not allowed to put your head on tefillin. You're not, like what you're saying.
Right.
Sfarim should be treated with the Kedusha. However,
I understand. And then if you want to protect it also so you can sleep on it in this case. However, in this case, it didn't seem like they're in the middle of nowhere.
we don't know that. It could be they're in the bungalows. There's times that the rabbis go to the bungalows, and it could be that in the bungalows they have squirrels coming into the bedrooms all the time.
Got it. Okay.
Anyone ever been to the? You've been to the army, no? Yeah. So is there ever any wild animals that come in the middle of the base?
I guess, yeah.
No, I don't know. I have no idea. But it's not necessarily that someone's gonna come steal it. It could be that you have rodents that come, that nibble, that are making it dirty. That's things that we learned. There could be rodents as well. So the protection could be protection from not necessarily people. Could be they're living in an unclean place or whatever it is.
Right.
And they had a rodent issue. It's possible.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
I think that you can only do that when you're in an unsafe place, or is it just you're allowed to do it so you can do it?
No, because Rava himself says, "Kol lenatrinu Shari. It's only if you're doing it to protect it. It doesn't have to be protecting it from bandits. It could be protecting it from anything, really. It could be from rodents. But if you're in a place that's safe, you should not be. That's why the baraita says, but if you have a ledge that's 3 tefachim above, like put it there. Something that's separate enough. But yes. I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning of the shiur, that technically all of these things, there's one halacha, but it's more of just understanding the respect. I think the big ideas that I like to take away from this Gemara is that you have to treat the tefillin with respect, but if you're doing something that's going to protect it, then it's okay. The same exact thing with Rama's question about going to the bathroom. You at the airport. You have your tefillin, you have to go to the airport. We've spoken about this. Are you allowed to take it into the bathroom with you? If you're worried that by leaving it outside, all of a sudden someone's going to steal it, or it's going to get dirty, or all of a sudden the TSA is going to come confiscate your tefillin, and you're never going to see it again. These are things to protect your tefillin. So you're allowed to take it in with you. As we said, with the case, with the bag, with the tefillin, with the double covering, all of the above. Okay, let's keep going. I wanted to get into some fun Gemara tonight. Let's see if we're going to do it. Okay, here we go. Gentlemen, I'm going to ask not to ask me why we're in these situations. Okay? We're going to get into situations. I'm going to ask you, please, don't ask me why. We're just learning the facts here. Okay? Don't ask me why. So Rav Yosef asked another question from Rav Yehuda. You have two fellows that are sleeping in the same bed, roommates. And it seems like the concept of pajamas is a modern day invention. The times of the Gemara, you wouldn't sleep with pajamas, you would sleep in the birthday suits. So you have two roommates, they're sleeping in the same bed. And it comes time to reading Kriyat Shema, and they're both in the bed, under the covers, naked. Can they simply turn and face opposite directions and say Shema Yisrael? Okay, you think about it, you have brothers. There's brothers in the same room, the same bed, they're naked, because that's how they sleep, they didn't have pajamas, and it comes time to Shema. Can they turn each one in the opposite direction and say Shema? Okay? Oh, Tosot's question. Tosot asks this question, Ilan. Very good question. Tosot asks, are you even allowed to say Shema yourself if you're naked? Forget about being naked next to someone else in the same bed. Am I allowed to say Shema myself? Okay, Tosot's first answer. Tosot says that the guy is covered. We're not saying that he's naked and he's open. They're under the covers. It's just that they're back to back, so their buttocks are keeping each other warm, essentially. That's the case of the Gemara. Again, don't ask me why. That's the case of the Gemara, that they happen to be back to back, but they're covered. That's what one answer to Tosot says. And Tosot says it could be how they have some sort of a covering to separate their body. Like it could be how maybe they have some sort of a belt or something. It's just that they're naked. But you're asking Tosot's question. Excellent question. The answer is, again, let's take us back to practical cases. Do not recite Shema when you're naked. You should be covered. At the very least, with something to separate your upper body from your lower body. And I'll say, like, even if you're wearing an underwear that has a band, that's enough. That's enough of a covering to be able to recite Shema. You should have your head covering. You should be dressed. But let's say you're like the last second. It's about to be Shema Yisrael. The last minute is about to pass. As long as you're covered with a head covering, you're technically allowed to say Shema. If you're under the covers and you're somewhat modest, yes, you're allowed to. But that's not our case here. Our case is two gentlemen in the same bed, not dressed. Can they each face the other way, even though their buttocks might be touching? Here's what Shmuel says. Hachi Amar Shmuel, Amalei Shmuel. Shmuel, Amalei, Hachi Amar Shmuel. He says, this is what Shmuel says. Afilu Ishto Imo. He's allowed to do this even with his wife. Even with his wife, he's allowed to be undressed under the blankets, each one facing the opposite direction. Buttocks are touching. They're allowed to recite Shema Yisrael. Now, Matkivla Rav Yosef says, hold on a second. Shmuel, I have an issue with how you worded that. Shmuel, you said, even if it's your wife, which seems to imply that reciting Shema with your wife is a bigger deal, undressed, is a bigger deal than with some random person. And he says, your wife, you're in the same bed every single night. So if I were to ask you, if you could only do it in one of these two cases, with your wife or with some random person, like I would say, okay, your wife is more like you. It's more okay. You might say that your mind is not going to be on Shema, but you might argue the opposite is true. If you are in the same bed as your wife every single night for however long, a person can focus on Shema for 3 minutes. Well, the guy falls asleep eventually, so it's not like his mind is on relations all the time. He's going to sleep. It's normal. Whereas with a random person, because it's a random situation, like because they had to be roommates somewhere, like no, it's not comfortable. Someone is going somewhere and then they room a bunch of people in a room. I've had it before. One time, dressed. Baruch Hashem, we were fully dressed. But once I was going to a wedding in the Marriott Marquis on a Sunday night. I had a thing the next morning. I had to go to work. I had to be at the office in the next morning. So I stayed there. So I went into the room. We had shared with like a few guys. I went to sleep. I don't know who was in the bed. I have no idea who came in the middle of the night. Someone got there. I woke up in the morning. I don't know who it was. And I just went to work. I have no idea. I didn't sleep well that night. It was an uncomfortable night. But Baruch Hashem, I got to be Mesameach Hatam V'Kala. Went to a wedding. Went to the office early morning. We're talking about a situation that's not normal, right? So this is where Rabbi Yosef says how I don't like the way you said that you're allowed to do this even with your wife. To me, the wife is less of a big deal. Let's read how he says it. Ishto v'lo mibaya acher. You're saying your wife and everyone else is like less of a big deal. Adarabba, ishto kikufo. His wife is like him. A man and his wife, it's like the same person. So that would be, if you were to tell me that there's only one person in the world that he's allowed to say Shema when he's in bed with, I would say it's his wife. That's what he's saying. Acher lav kikufo. This random person is not like himself. Okay, I really want to finish this subject tonight, so we're going to keep going. So you have a machloket. Okay, what's the machloket? The machloket is as follows: if a person is in bed facing the opposite direction from the other person, so they're back to back, being back to back, both undressed, are they allowed to recite Shema? They don't see each other; they just feel each other in the back. Are they allowed to recite Shema? There's two opinions. One says yes, no matter who it is. It could be a regular, it could be a guy, a roommate, or it could be a wife. And Rabbi Yosef says no, only with one's wife. Because it's so normal, in that case, he would be allowed to recite Shema. But in a case where it's a roommate that's unusual, in that situation, he cannot recite Shema because he's not going to be focused on reciting Shema. There's some random guy behind. So this is what the two answers is. According to one, it's permitted for anyone. And according to the second opinion, it's permitted only for the wife, but not for others. Okay? So, hold on. Let me get through the next couple lines, and then we'll stop for questions. Mitveh, we have a problem because we have a baraita. We have two baraitas. One of them says that it's allowed, one of them says it's not. So according to the opinion that says it's allowed with your wife and not with anyone else, it works out. The one that says it's allowed is talking about your wife. The one that says it's not allowed is talking about everyone else. But according to Shmuel that says it's okay with everyone, then how come you have one baraita that says it's allowed and one says it's not allowed? Okay, that's going to be the structure of the following flow. Mitzvah, we learned in a baraita, two people are sleeping in a bed. One of them, this guy turns outward and reads, and the other one faces the other direction and he reads. You're allowed. It's allowed. And we have another baraita. Someone is sleeping in his bed. And people are in his bed with him. His children. Again, we're not talking about anything sexual here. It's just the fact that they're not dressed and he wants to recite Shema. Don't read Shema because there are other people in this bed that are naked. Unless there was covering, it's something separating between them. So it's like they had their own robes, if you will. Then it's fine. Like pajamas. Like pajamas. There you go. Then it's fine to say it. Right? And if they're very young, if like you have like your 2-year-old in your bed or 3-year-old in your bed, then it would be allowed. Okay, or we're going to define what it means to be young. How you define how young is considered young for the purposes of this, then it's allowed. So here's what we have. Remember, are you allowed to recite Shema by facing outwards? Two opinions. Shmuel says yes for everyone, it's allowed. Rav Yosef says yes for the wife, but not for everyone else. Okay? Now, Rav Yosef and Shmuel are Amoraim. Now we're going to take it to the level of Tanaim, and there's two baraitot. One baraita says yes, it's allowed, just face outwards is allowed. The other one says if there's other people in your bed, it's not allowed unless you're wearing your robes. So how is it possible that one baraita says it's allowed, the other one says it's not? So according to Rav Yosef that says it's allowed with his wife, the one that says it's allowed is about his wife, and the one that says it's not allowed is about anyone else. But according to Shmuel that says it's allowed by your wife and anyone else, what do you do with that baraita that says it's not allowed? You get the question? Okay. Bishlam Rav Yosef lo kashya. According to Rav Yosef, it works out because you have two baraitot, one saying it's okay, one saying it's not okay. Ha ishto ha be'acher. With your wife, it's okay. You face outwards and say Shema. With other people, it's not okay. Even if you're facing outwards, you cannot. Ela l'Shmuel kashya. But according to Shmuel, you have a problem because Shmuel says it's allowed for the one's wife or with anyone else. Aron lacha Shmuel could defend you. Rav Yosef minicha. You're telling me that the problem is with me because you have two baraitot, and that only I have an issue? Guess what? I have a third baraita. And the third baraita is going to be a problem for Shmuel, for Rav Yosef. What's the third baraita? Ve'atanya, we have another baraita. Haya yashin b'mita. One is lying down in a bed. Ubanav, and there's some that take out this word ubanav. Ubne beto b'mita. And the people of his home are in his house, in his bed, which is referring to his wife. The way Shmuel is saying it, his wife is in his bed. Lo yikra kriyat Shema. You may not recite Shema. Unless they have their clothing on, they have their robes, they have something separating them. So he says, I just pulled a third baraita that says even with your wife it's not okay. That's against what he said, but it's also against what Rav Yosef said. So what is he saying? He's saying, how are you going to deal with this baraita? Rav Yosef, you said it's okay for your wife, but I brought a baraita that says it's not okay for your wife. So what are you going to say? You're going to say, Ishtol Rav Yosef Tanai. You're going to say, there's three baraitot and they're arguing with each other. They don't all work. One of them says it's okay with their wife. One of them says it's not okay even with your wife. And one of them says it's okay with anyone. There's three opinions. You're picking one. I'm going to say the same thing. I don't have to say that all of these work. See, our first approach was to say, one baraita says it's okay. One baraita says it's not okay. How can I deal with it? Oh, this is talking about a wife. This is talking about someone else. Shmuel says, no. They're arguing. One says it's okay. One says it's not. They're arguing. And I hold like this one. And not that there's a reason for why I hold what I hold, but I pick like one of the Tanaim. Yeah, and the Amoraim have the right to say, I pick like this Tana, you hold like this Tana, I hold like that Tana. So he says, don't say that you have issues with your baraitot. You have two baraitot, and that's a disproof for me. I have another baraita. That's a disproof for you. So really the way we deal with this is that we say the baraitot are arguing, and we're deciding which ones we hold like. That's how he wants to deal with it. Hold on. The Rav Yosef, Ishto Rav Yosef Tanai, Ladidinami Tanai. So according to me, it's also Machloket Tanaim, and we're picking which one we hold like. Yes, question. Yeah. So that's why you have some that change the text. If you look at the Bach, he changes the text of the third baraita by removing the word banav. He says, Haita Yashem Mita Uvne Beto Imo, referring to his wife specifically. There's some that actually say that there's a version of the text that it's referring to just one's wife. There are different ways of explaining it. Let's look at the footnote. I think there's a footnote on this, right? You're asking a very good question because Andrew picked up very nicely that the second baraita and the third baraita are the same text. But what Shmuel is explaining to us is that third baraita is referring to one's wife. Excuse me. Here. Is it 14? 15? Yeah. 14. The following baraita is the same as the second of the two baraita quoted above. It is quoted here with minor variations. Rashi according to Tosfot. So it's a little bit different. And then the next one, look at 15. It is explained above that according to Rav Yosef, the baraitas term b'nei beto does not include one's wife. Shmuel argues that such an interpretation is untenable, which means another way of explaining it is not that he's introducing a third baraita, is that he's explaining in the second baraita that it says that it's not allowed. It says b'nei beto. B'nei beto is referring to one's wife. So the way you, Rav Yosef, are saying one baraita says it's allowed, one says it's not. It's allowed with the wife and it's not allowed with others. But the one that says it's not allowed says b'nei beto, people of his house, which is what the wife is. That's the wife is the same member of the home. So he says it doesn't work that way. All right. Look, I don't think we need to spend too much time on this. Let's just go into the next topic, which is going to introduce us to the next X-rated topic of the Masechet. Okay, it's a very famous Daf Kavdalad of Masechet Berachot. Is a very famous Daf. Amar Mar says, which means let's go back to that previous statement. There is a situation in which each one faces the opposite direction and recites. Either it's with one's wife or with another person, whichever, however you hold. But you have agavot. What are agavot? Agavot are buttocks. The question here is, but their buttocks are touching. How are you allowed to recite Shema if your buttocks is in contact with someone else, be it your wife or with someone else? So the Gemara is going to say, Dama Rav Huna, Misaya Leila Rav Huna, this is a proof to Rav Huna. Dama Rav Huna, the Rav Huna says, Agavot ein bahem mishum erva. Agavot do not have the status of erva for this purpose, which means if someone is lying down in bed and his private area is touching his wife's private area, their genitalia are touching, one is not allowed to recite Shema under that state. If his front is with her front, it's not allowed. But if his back is with her back, then it would be allowed. It's proving Rav Huna's point that says the back is not considered genitalia for these purposes. It's not considered erva. And if one's back is touching his wife's back, he would still be allowed to recite Shema, which would not be the case if his front is facing his wife's front. We're essentially defining whether the back is considered a private area with respect to the law of if your private area is touching something that you're not allowed to recite Shema. So is the backside considered private for that purpose? Yes.
For some reason your bed is tiny, but if you're
Yeah.
to separate, put air between you.
You're sleeping in like not even in a twin bed. It's like you're sleeping in those anyone here went to yeshiva in Israel? Like, yeah, you're sleeping in a hammock. That's it. You're sleeping in a cot. You're sleeping in a child's cot, and you're an adult. It's like you're sleeping in a playpen. They stuck you inside a playpen, and that's all you fit in. So you broke down the walls, and you're stuck inside. So yes, it's like the only way to sleep while you're both on the bed is if you're in contact. If you're sleeping in a king size bed, then this isn't an issue. You're absolutely correct. It's a very good point. Yeah, you're understanding correctly. It's like we're constructing a case in which it has to be this way, which means you're sleeping in like a cot, and they're not wearing pajamas, and they're both inside the bed, and you can't get up and say Shema. I don't just get up and say Shema. Well, this is what the situation is. Look, I said at the beginning, do not ask me why we're in this situation. Okay, this is the situation. Sometimes you just have to understand the case to understand the law. You're on the top of a bunk bed. Oh, has anyone ever been inside of a cruise ship? Then like the top, you're inside each room, there's like things, you're up there on the top, it's like you're like shoving people inside of a room. Sharing with your wife the top bunk bed and no pajamas. Okay, this is the case. This is the case. All right. By the way, how do you say tomatoes in Hebrew? Very good. So Rabbi Chaim always says that this is a modern term. Agvaniot come from the word agavot. Agavot is buttocks. Agvaniot looks like a buttocks. Rabbi Chaim always says that whoever, because it's a modern Hebrew word. It's not a biblical Hebrew word. So whoever, I forgot who it was, but he always says whoever came up with the names of modern Hebrew, they came up with names of like modern words, called the tomato agvaniot. It's a little buttocks. Okay, because that's what it looks like. Anyway, let's keep going. All right. So what we're trying to prove now is that the buttocks, the agavot, is not considered erva. So now we're going to say, oh, I have another case that's similar. And then with that, we're going to end it. Again, a situation, don't ask me why. Lema Misayele the Ravuna. So this is coming. I have a proof that for Ravuna from a Mishnah. The Mishnah is talking about a lady who's baking challah. After she bakes challah, she has to separate challah and she has to make a bracha. You know, when ladies separate the part when they bake challah, they have to make a bracha. Al lafrish challah truma. Lafrish truma. They have to make a bracha. So here's a woman. She's doing this. Happens to be she's not dressed. I don't know why. They're doing laundry at that moment, and during the load of laundry, everything is getting washed. While that's getting washed and hanging to dry, time to bake some bread. Now she baked the bread. She wants to separate the challah. She has to say bracha, but she's not dressed. What is she allowed to do? So says the Mishnah, Ha'isha yoshevet. She has to sit, v'kotzah lak chalata aruma, and then she would be allowed to separate the challah while she's naked. Why? Because she could cover her private area in the dirt of the ground. Since she's able to sit in a way that she's covered in that area, she would be allowed to recite a bracha in this state. Aval lo ish, but not a man. If a man were in a situation where he baked challah and he wants to separate it and he's not dressed, and he's sitting in the dirt, he can't. Why? Because a man's body is different and he can't just cover it. There's a part of his body that's exposed. And he can't cover it just by sitting. Targum. So now here's what we want to say. We want to say, oh, but if the woman is not dressed and she's covering, presumably she's only covering her front side and her backside is exposed, and even though her backside is exposed, she's allowed to recite a bracha. That's a proof that the backside is not considered erva. So Targum Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rav Nachman says no. We're talking about very soft ground that it's easy for her to cover her front and her back. Sand, her front and her back is covered, so she's modest in the sense that her front is covered and her back is covered, so she's allowed to recite a bracha. I don't know why. It's a situation. I gave you the case. They're doing laundry, and she wants to do this at this moment. What? She's on in a private beach. In a private beach. Okay, look, this is the case. What we're trying to ask the question, is a woman allowed to make a bracha when her backside is uncovered? And we're saying, look, this is a proof. The answer is no, not necessarily, because it could be the case where we allowed it, her backside is covered within the sand, within the dirt. Okay, that's going to introduce the next topic, which Be'ezrat Hashem will do next week. The next topic is going to be as follows. Once we ask the question of, are buttocks considered private area, not with respect to what you're allowed to look at. That's not what I'm talking about. It's with respect to, am I allowed to recite Shema if this area of myself is exposed? Am I allowed to recite Shema if I'm in contact with someone else's area of this area? Okay. Once we say that, we then start asking a question. Hold on a second. What are the areas that are considered erva? Front side, back side, arms, legs, and then are there other things like a lady's hair and her head covering? Does she have to have her head covered? Another thing, what about if a woman is singing? Is there singing considered erva issue? And like what you end up discussing is this whole broad topic of what are things that are considered immodest. Okay, it's a very hot topic. There's a lot of hot topics here because the question of, let's say you go to somewhere and the lady is singing the Star Spangled Banner. It's a woman's voice. Is that an issue? Is it not? Let's say, for example, you have a woman whose hair is uncovered. Is that an issue? Is it not? Does it matter if she's single? Does it matter if she's married? Does it matter where they live? What about a woman's legs? What about above the knees, below the knees, ankles, open toes? This page is the page that discusses all of the things of modesty. Now, I think when we discuss this next week, I'll give the disclaimer of, I'm not going to tell you to go start changing things. We're going to learn the sources. And what I'll encourage you to do is that if you want to look into it more, you'll know where the source is to continue doing research. But what I will say is that probably there are 100 shiurim on this daf from many different rabbis, many different circles discussing these topics. This is going to be the daf of erva, of what is considered modest, modestly dressing and what's not. And Be'ezrat Hashem, it's a very important topic, especially for someone who has to keep in mind of how to guard their eyes. We're entering the warm season. People aren't always going to be dressed properly. And it's important to keep this in mind. So I think it's a very important daf. Be'ezrat Hashem, Yiratzon, next week we'll do this. We'll focus. We'll hopefully talk about the importance of guarding our eyes, our focus of being able to mind our own business certain times. Be'ezrat Hashem is a very important daf. So I encourage everyone who can to come next week. It's a very, very big topic. Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, we'll stop there. Azak Baruch. See you all next week in good health. Be'ezrat Hashem.